Hello, Michigan citizens and readers. I'm Ken Cockrel Jr. I'm the president of the Detroit City Council and served on council now. Currently, I'm in my third term, which I'm wrapping up. I'm seeking re-election to the Detroit City Council. The reason why I'm doing it is because I love this city, but we're challenged, significantly challenged. We got a lot of problems, a lot of issues and obstacles that we got to face, but I want to be a part of rising to meet those challenges. My wife Kimberly and I, we're raising 5 children here in the city. We have 4 of them in public schools, so I'm dealing with the challenges from that standpoint as well. But I think Detroit has a tremendous amount of potential, and I want to be here to help realize that potential. Thank you. First question, frankly, I don't always agree with this mayor on a lot of what he's doing, and I disagree with this mayor on many moves, such as his approach, for example, to bus service and the cuts to bus service. I not only opposed it, but I also offered an alternative approach. And as it relates to layoffs, I do think that layoffs are inevitable. That's something that we do have to deal with, but there's a way, I think, to engage the unions that he really hasn't done. One of the things that I tried to do during the time that I was serving as interim mayor was to not only make the pitch for concessions and a 10% cut, because that is necessary, we do have to do it, but there's a way to bring the unions into the process so that it doesn't necessarily have to be a hostile, antagonistic process. The unions are absolutely right when they point out, for example, that part of the problem is that we have contracts in some cases which are overpriced, where the city's paying through the nose, and where money could probably be saved by bringing that work back into the city of Detroit and letting Detroit workers do it. And for example, when I was mayor, one of the things that we did is we'd begun a financial review of a number of contracts. And in the finance department, we had staff who identified about a half a dozen financial services contracts where the city was paying millions of dollars for work that we really didn't need. So what we did is we terminated all those contracts and we brought that work back in-house. And now it's saving the city money. So I think we need to go to the unions and ask them, you know, where are some of these other contracts that you see where maybe we're paying for a service that we don't need, and in the process maybe paying millions of dollars out. I don't think that that's been done under this administration, and it needs to be done. We can make the unions a partner in solving the city of Detroit's financial problems. We can make them a part of the process. They need to be engaged, and they should be. I don't really think they are right now. Well, it can be, and I didn't get a chance to respond to your second question earlier about have we exhausted the search for revenue streams. So I want to come back and answer that. I don't think that we've exhausted the search for revenue streams. One of the things that one council member has been calling for consistently is for Detroit and for representation from Detroit city government to go to Washington, D.C. and make the pitch to the federal government for a certain amount of aid for the city of Detroit. And conceptually, you know, that is something that I support. I think we got to do it, but I also think we got to recognize that at the end of the day, nobody's going to come and save us. We got to solve our own problems. For example, other possible revenue streams could be bottling city water and selling it. Detroit's got some of the cleanest, highest quality in the country, if not in the world. I think we ought to take a look at what we can do to actually bottle that water and sell it and make it a revenue stream. Other things that I'm a supporter of and a big promoter of is urban gardening and urban farming. And I think there's a potential not only for entrepreneurs, small businesses who want to start their own urban gardens or urban farms to make money, but it's a way for the city to actually draw a revenue from that. Because if we get people developing urban farms and urban gardens, then we're taking vacant lots and putting them back on the tax rolls so that they're generating money from the city. At the same time, you've also got people who are now running active businesses on those lots and making money from them. You can, I mean, the city of Detroit is a strong mayor form of government under the charter that we have now. Now, of course, that could always change depending on who gets elected to the charter commission and what they decide to do. And everything theoretically will be on the table once the charter commission takes office. They decide to go a different route and weaken the powers of mayor, increase the powers of council. That's one of the things that they could do. In the meantime, under this current charter, council can actually have a tremendous impact. I mean, I talked earlier about this green agenda that I have, and one of the things that we did recently through the Green Task Force, which I started about 3 years or so ago, and I'm still the chair of, is we took a green housing development on the city's west side, and the final approval in order for the developer to actually bring that project to reality just took place last week. And that's something that I was able to do from a council seat. So even though it's a strong mayor form of government and most of the power of government and authority over city departments is in the mayor, council members can still do things, they can still make things happen, not only through writing legislation, not only through taking projects and kind of steering them along the way, but also through the bully pulpit, through yelling and screaming where necessary, or pointing issues out, highlighting them, bringing them to the attention of the mayor, bringing them to the attention of the media, bringing them to the attention of community groups. There are a number of ways. Yeah, I do think the privatization ordinance is important. It is city law, and we're going to have to follow it. I think it's going to be of critical importance coming up because we're starting to see indications that there will be a trend toward trying to privatize certain departments. So we got to keep in mind, if there's a move from the mayor to try to do that, that you've got this ordinance, which is city law, and it specifies what has to be done and how it has to be done. So I don't really see it as like a vetting process, because if you actually read the language in the ordinance, it's pretty clear about how the ordinance is to be followed. And if you have an attempt to take a certain city operation and turn that over to a private business, it says that the union has to be given, for example, the right to bid, the right to compete. They are to be given the opportunity to submit their own counter proposal and show how maybe they could take a service that they've been providing and do it even better and more efficiently than what a private business could do. So I think it's really just about following what's already there, following that law. Well, I'll give you one example, and it never even got to the point of the unions having to bid on it because it ended up not even going anywhere. The former mayor at that time didn't propose it. But there was, at one point, a proposal that was on the table from a nonprofit group that wanted to come in and take over the day-to-day operations of a rec center on the city's west side. I believe it was O'Shea Rec Center. And myself and one other council member blocked that from actually happening because of the fact that we have to remind folks that there is a privatization ordinance. Now, on a certain level, that issue was actually kind of unfortunate because what that nonprofit wanted to do is come in and take a rec center that basically had already been closed down. So while I liked what they were trying to do, I could not forget the fact that you have an ordinance that specifies what's to be done in a situation like that. And that process needed to be followed. Now, I do think, though, that as we move forward, if we can use that privatization ordinance in a way that satisfies everyone, so that, for example, if maybe you do have like a closed rec center that you've got a group that wants to come in and operate, if we can come up with a way so that that group can come in and do that, so that they're providing services to children in the community and addressing the union's concerns, then that's what we ought to be striving for. Because on the flip side of this, the reality is the city's resources are shrinking, and we do have to look for opportunities to put together deals and creative partnerships where the union gets what it wants, where the union's concerns are addressed, where their workers are still able to work, and you've got whatever operator wants to come in and do something that's able to do its thing as well. Well, the follow-up really is the most critical thing, because, and that sometimes requires a lot of work, because what you really have to do is you have to track it. I mean, sometimes you'll get a commitment from someone that, yes, we'll do this, yes, we'll hire 51% of voters, yes, we'll use Detroit-based contractors. If we're building something, yeah, we'll use them in all aspects of it, from design all the way up to the day when the last brick is put in the ground. People will sometimes promise this stuff, but in some cases what you have to do is really go behind them and see what they're actually doing. In some cases, part of how I've done that is I've got good relationships with a number of unions, and if they call me up and say, they're not fulfilling their obligations on this, I'm out on this work site, or we've had people visit just to inspect, and we're not seeing Detroiters represented, and you get with the Human Rights Department, which I've done in some cases, and said, we need to send somebody out, actually have them take a look, do a surprise visit, see how many people are actually on the site, so that you can find out if what you were told is actually happening in reality. And I'll continue to do that and use any other means to promote that agenda.